Welcome to Cambridge Summer Music Festival online. My name is Freya Goldmark, I'm a violinist and I'm the Festival Director here. After the cancellation of our 2020 festival, I took some time to chat to some of the artists that would have been performing. Today you're going to see a conversation I had with celebrated violinist Tasmin Little. Tasmin and I chatted about a huge range of things, including what she's going to do now that she's retired from the concert platform and the music of Frederick Delius.
Something I'd love to talk about is what it was like being at Menuhin School and going from obviously a really artistic family that you grew up in and then going to Menuhin School, and how important you feel that was in your kind of whole journey as a musician.
Well, I did grow up in a very creative environment at home. My father was an actor. And so, of course, there was a lot of music. There was a lot of spontaneity at home. And although my mother wasn't ever in the performing arts, she's still a very, very creative and spontaneous and vivacious person. So I grew up, my sister and I grew up in this environment. But although my parents love music, it's fair to say that they didn't know anything at all about any kind of career in music. So there are obviously some similarities between the acting world and the world of music, but actually practically there are also a lot of dissimilarities. So when I went to the Menuhin School, this was the first time that I felt that I was really surrounded by people who were very much like I am. And just from a specifically musical point of view, but when you were talking about something in music, everybody understood. So we all spoke that common language. It was also a very international environment as well. So we had students, and there are still plenty, masses of foreign students at the school. And I think that really contributes to the sense of the breadth of the environment, because people come from different backgrounds and speak different languages. And I think that all feeds into an environment that is very stimulating for creativity and for the imagination.
I have a lot of friends who've gone to Menuhin School, and I think there's a real sense of family that kind of follows you throughout your career, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure that that's absolutely right. And I think it isn't just that you make friends for life, which you do, because living together, playing together, doing academic work together, that all does feed into the family atmosphere. And the school was a lot smaller when I was there. When I first went aged 8, it was only 35 pupils. That went up to 50, and now, of course, we're in the 80s somewhere. But I think the other thing that Menuhin School gives to musicians is a real sense of a connection musically in terms of what we all want to try and achieve. So I've never had any problems playing chamber music with people from the Menuhin School. We just instantly know how we're going to listen, how we're going to develop whatever piece it is in a musical way, what the priorities are. So from that point of view as well, it really feels like a musical family.
And what was it like to be kind of in the presence of Menuhin? I know that he came to the school, throughout the year. And what was he like? What was your impression of him as a young person?
Well, as a young person, I was surprised by how quietly spoken he was, and by how sort of modest and unassuming he was, particularly in the way that he dressed. So, bearing in mind he was a great musician, and my 8-year-old brain expected he'd come in in black tie with very, very posh clothes. So when he showed up at the morning meeting at 20 to 9 in slacks and a cardigan, it was just quite a shock, really. And even more so that he would be so solicitous of an 8-year-old, that that I should be really truly comfortable, that there was no feeling whatsoever of any ego in the great I am. He was there with his ideas, wanting to help me to get better. So, and I mean, that went right throughout my 10 years at the school. So, I mean, I probably would have been the recipient of about maybe 3, possibly even 4 lessons a year throughout the 10-year period. And of course, as I got better and we were able to, you really get in depth with some amazing pieces of music like the Bach Chaconne or, a concerto or something like that. Obviously, his approach changed as well. But one thing that never changed was this fact that it was thoughtful, respectful to the student. And from that point of view, but certainly for that point in time, I think that was quite unusual because I think we were still part of that mentality of the big pedagogue who was all-knowing and all-wise. And, so that thought that we're all still learning together was a very special and unusual one.
I'd love to talk about the fact that I think throughout your career you've really championed British music. I mean, you've recorded a huge breadth of all different types of music, but in our festival next year we're programming a lot of British music and a lot of Delius actually, and I know a lot of people.
I'm missing it.
Yes, I know. You can come and watch. I know that some people, Delius can be a kind of Marmite composer, or people are quite quick to say, well, I don't like Delius. What would you say to people who haven't experienced his music, or perhaps have kind of pushed it to one side or put it in a box? What would you say about Delius?
I think one of the greatest problems with getting Delius's music better known and better loved is that it tends to boil down to the same 2 or 3 pieces that people have listened to. So, for instance, I do remember when I was recording the double concerto in Liverpool with Raphael Wallfisch and Sir Charles Mackerras, the night before the beginning of our recording, Raphael was playing the cello concerto, and the concert opened with a performance of Paris. And I was sitting in my seat, and literally the conductor was about to walk on stage. Charles was about to walk on stage when a couple of latecomers were running, and they took their seat, in fact, directly in front of me. And of course, it was beginning, so they were very, very quiet and listening and everything. And they clearly can't have known what the program was, because at the end of it, and it is the most wonderful piece. I mean, it's a bit like Debussy or something like that. I mean, it's a fantastic, huge, colourful tone poem. And they looked at each other and they said, "What was that? It was amazing." And then they looked in their program and they went, "Delius?" This is the thing that I would say to people, that please get away from those little miniatures that a lot of people find very boring and very yawn-inspiring, and just listen to something completely different. Now, I mean, for instance, a piece that I recorded in the late 90s, I think it was 97, with Piers Lane, was the Sonata for Violin and Piano Opus Posthumus in B major. Now, I mean, this is just a traditional romantic violin sonata, and it's fantastic, and it's got a great sweep about it and virtuosity, a real sense of being uplifted as well, because a lot of people think, yes, this music, oh dear, it's going to have the quiet ending and we're all just going to be lulled to sleep. Well, they won't get a chance to sleep in the Opus Posthumus Sonata. So I think that that is the main thing, that we've got to give Delius a chance away from the miniatures and Brig Fair and pieces that just everybody has heard.
Well, if that hasn't convinced people to go and listen to Delius, I don't know what will. Again, going along with the breadth of what you've recorded, I think it's really interesting for musicians, but also audiences, to hear the process behind learning something. And how do you approach learning a new work that you haven't played before? What, how does that work for you?
The approach is, it varies according to whether the piece has just been written, in other words, it's a premiere and there's nothing to go on whatsoever, or learning a piece that you might have known for a really long time but just haven't really got round to. So, in the case of the instance where you know the piece, but it's just the first time you've ever tried to play it on your instrument, I think one often has ideas about the piece already there. And so, of course, that's not to say that that process won't develop and you won't begin to alter and make minute adjustments. But you've probably already got thoughts and ideas enough to shape a piece. So it's a question of the nuts and bolts of it. How am I going to get from A to B? How will I make that passage sound the way I have it in my head? And then it's a refining process. Completely different process when you've got a piece in front of you that's just been created. Then at that point you have to look at what everybody else is playing, assuming it's not unaccompanied, and you've got to try to understand how you fit in to that. And so that you've got, if you like, a sort of mental recording of what is going on alongside you, going in your head as you're trying to work out how your own line might feed into that, might be an integral part of it, or might be resting on top. And then obviously as you get to know it again, one always refines. I've never ever learned a piece of music that I go, that's how I'm going to do it, and that's that. Never ever ever. And even once I've learned it, it's always new. And in fact, I was just rehearsing a couple of days ago with Piers Lane, a piece we've played together for 30 years. Guess what? I suddenly had the most brilliant idea for a fingering, and I thought, why did I never think of that before? I can't believe it. So this creative process never stops, and I believe it never should stop, because the whole point about performance is that although on the one hand you are recreating something that a composer has asked you to play in a probably specific way, or certainly with regard to rhythms and the notes, of course it's very specific, but then what you do within that, of course, there can be so many variations. But what you're always going to do is find new things in what you have received from the composer, and also what you're receiving from your fellow performers. So the whole point about a collaboration with a pianist, and we have long-term collaboration with Piers, where we've worked together for more than 3 decades. You're going to continually suggest and rethink and rehear what you're doing, and I love that. I mean, that's one of the things that's kept me completely engaged in playing and in the repertoire, no matter how well you think you know it.
Another thing that I think super important, and I'm sure you do too, is bringing classical music to all different types of people, and especially children, actually. And I wondered what you thought, performers and concert organisers, what more we could do to bring classical music to children.
I think that this has got to be a process that goes hand in hand with education and our curriculum, because I think that in recent years, I think the classical music profession has done an enormous amount to try and make it available. It wasn't always the case, but it certainly has been the case in the last 10 to 15
Mm-hmm.
years. You know, educational programs that orchestras have put together reach an enormous amount of people.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's fantastic. But without the support of the education system behind us, I, I think it is very, very difficult, because also we don't get many resources.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're going to put together something that's really meaningful, that is going to cost potentially money that orchestras certainly don't, you know, have that much of. One gets grants, I know that, but not enough by any means to put together a program that would certainly reach, you know, every school child. So I think that, you know, it's very easy for people in positions of government authority to go, well, the classical music industry should do more. Yeah, well, we are trying,
Mm-hmm.
but, you know, we need really to not keep on having the buck passed our way, but actually to chuck it back to those who are responsible for putting together the curriculum, and go, right, let's have a meaningful dialogue here. We can
Yeah.
do this. How are you going to support us?
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, just we've lost so much of that in the last sort of 15, 20 years. When I was at school, I already played the violin actually, but when you were 6, everyone played a string instrument and you had your class lesson, and not everyone carried it on afterwards, but they at least had the opportunity, and the instruments were there. And yeah, we really do need help, I think.
Yeah, we do. I mean, when I was at primary school, it was a state primary school in London in 1972,
Mhm.
and there was there were several music teachers affiliated to the school, and I was able to have my 15 minutes a week on the violin, and then that was that became 30 minutes a week. And, you know, the support structure was really there to help me. And then the teacher, who was fantastic, he said, I really feel that you need to go to a specialist music
Mhm.
school. You know, so that there was a whole feeling that I was, you know, people were looking at me and what I could do and thinking of ways to support me. And that was a really important, I mean, just crucial
Yeah.
part of my life, that I was given that opportunity.
Yeah, I think everyone should have that opportunity, and whether they then want to do anything with it is totally up to them.
But
But we
that's
should
what
all have it.
education is. That is
Absolutely.
exactly what education is. It is giving people an opportunity to find out where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, try and help them to be as strong as they can in every area. But it's an opportunity for young people to begin to ask themselves what fires them up, what is it that they love about a specific subject, and that's why we need to offer a broad curriculum, because otherwise I think we are not serving our young people.
Obviously, it's been a weird year for everyone, and I'm sure your year has been very different to how you imagined, and your retirement extended, and yeah, very different to how you imagined. I was wondering, if you can look forward, what are you most looking forward to about stepping off the concert stage, and the new things that you can bring into your life, or things you can spend more time on? What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to a lot of things, which is why I'm not going to delay again, despite the fact that I have lost so much this year, about
Yeah.
60 concerts all over the world. So, you know, it has been quite devastating from that point of view. You know, and I still feel some sense of bereavement and loss for that I
Yeah.
wasn't able to say goodbye to many of my audiences. And so, you know, and also have proper goodbyes with each of my long-term collaborators,
Yeah.
Piers, Martin, John, and Andre Gugnin. So yeah, that has been really difficult. But the thing that makes it slightly easier is that I do have things to look forward to next year. One of the first things I'm going to be doing next year is making a set of 3 programs for BBC Radio 3 that will be on. It will be broadcast on Radio 3 on. I can't remember which Sunday it begins on, but anyway, Sundays in February.
Okay.
That you can look out for my
Hmm.
programs. So there'll be 3 consecutive Sundays. So that will be, I'm going to be going into the studio to record those programs in early January. And then at the moment, I'm actually currently taking a course, which is run by the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, but it is, well, it's a coaching and mentoring course that I'm doing,
Amazing.
because that's a part of my life that I definitely want to develop, and the skills that I'm currently trying to acquire can be used in the corporate world as well as in the in music world,
Yeah.
or wherever. They're completely transferable
Mm-hmm.
skills, and so I would like to make this quite a big part of my life, because I'm really enjoying it and finding it extremely rewarding and quite challenging in its own way, but I think particularly bearing in mind how much many musicians have suffered this year, I feel that I have got something that I hopefully can offer people as they come to terms with what they have lost,
Yeah.
and possibly having to rethink their lives. So I'm hoping to get my certificate, my diploma,
Mm-hmm.
in the early part of the year, so that I will be qualified to work in this capacity. And then obviously I'm going to continue giving masterclasses at institutions, at the academy. I'm going to be giving some masterclasses at the college in early part of next year, Trinity, Cheetham School. So teaching is absolutely going to continue to be a part of my life. And quite interesting giving talks as well about music, because obviously you've got lots of funny stories. And I think one thing that's come my way quite regularly is feedback that people love to hear me talk about music, that
Mm-hmm.
I apparently have a capacity to talk about music that is interesting. It's not patronizing, it's not too highfalutin either. So I'd like to try and make that a part of my life somehow or other. And then a few hobbies I quite like to take up, which I haven't really had much time for. So
Which hobbies?
oh, well, I'm definitely aiming, when we are able to do these things, definitely aiming for some cookery courses,
Oh,
because I do
lovely.
like cooking a
Uh-huh.
lot. So yeah, I've never poisoned anybody yet, and I really enjoy cooking, but my presentation is terrible, so I need to
Okay.
learn how to do that. Quite interested in doing a bit of pottery, and I can't paint and draw, so I'd quite like to take a painting course as well. Oh, there's lots of things, lots and lots of
Amazing.
things.
So you're
Like
going to
my
be very, very busy.
yeah, oh yes. I mean, it's quite funny because people are sort of going, "Oh, aren't you a bit young to retire?" And I'm just retiring from the concert platform. I'm
Yeah.
just releasing myself from endless hours and hours and hours of practice,
Yeah.
so that I can go to and visit a museum, or go to the theatre when we can all go to a theatre again, go to a concert and actually
Mm.
sit listen to the entire thing, instead of just hearing the second half when I've been the first half playing the concerto. But those sorts of things, I want to fill my life with creativity and with culture when we are in a position, which hopefully we will
Yeah.
be in, to enjoy that. So I'm looking forward to my invitation as a member of the audience to the Cambridge Festival.
Oh, well, we would be absolutely delighted to have you. And it's been really lovely speaking to you. Thank you so much for yeah, giving me some time. That's great.
Pleasure. Nice to
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you did, head over to our website where we've got lots of brilliant videos and a couple more conversations. We can't wait to see you all again this summer. In the meantime, if you can make a donation, that would be brilliant and help us with all the running costs of the festival. Thank you.